good, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to be talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers, another young up-and-coming team, and I don't think people understand in today's NBA just how much talent there is going around the league. So many teams have so many good players. Obviously, we still have worse teams than others. The Thunder are going to be bad. The Pistons have a really nice-looking roster, but they're likely going to be bad still. The Kings, I don't think, are going to be a great team this year, even with Sabonis or De'Aaron Fox. I've never been the biggest De'Aaron Fox guy, but in general, every team in the NBA has so much talent, even with their young players. It seems like every year the young players come in, they're better and better right off the bat. And today, I want to talk about, in my opinion, one of the better young up-and-coming teams in the NBA that has a chance right now to make that finals or deep playoff run. Now, I know I say this about a lot of teams. I like the Magic. I like the way the Magic play. I have a video about that. Check it out in this corner right here. Like the way the Raptors play. I have a video about that one that kind of blew up. I think Scottie Barnes has a chance to be one of the best players in the NBA for years to come. But out of every young team right now in the NBA, I think the Cavaliers have the best chance to make a push into the playoffs. Now, if we look at the Cavs, if I can find their record from last year, they were close to the playoffs the entire season. They really, late in that year, let me see if I can find, I'll find the record real quick, and then I'll skip to where I'm at when I have it. Alright, so as always, Basketball Reference comes to the rescue. Last year, the Cavaliers finished 44-38 on the season, finished 8th overall in the Eastern Conference. As we all know, they had a much better record earlier in the season, but they still have a chance to make the playoffs at that point because 7 through 10 go straight into a play-in tournament. Unfortunately for the Cavs, they ran into Kevin Durant, and then they also ran into Trae Young. So they ended up losing both play-in tournament games. Worst case scenario possible. They missed the playoffs completely when I think they should have been an easy lock for the playoffs. If we look at their roster last year, they are led by multiple really good all-star caliber players. First off, we all know and love Darius Garland, 22 years old. He's their star point guard. And a few years ago when he was drafted, the debate was still there. Colin Sexton or Darius Garland. Who is the better point guard for the future? Both of these guys are shorter. They're both more offensive-oriented guards, but they can play defense to some degree. It's just they aren't as effective because of their height and their weight. But Darius Garland has done everything possible to solidify that last season, averaging 21 points per game, 8.6, we'll even round up for him, 9 assists per game and over a steal per game. He did have 3 rebounds as well, which is decent for his size. Darius Garland really came out and he had the best year of his career. He had an all-star season and he led this Cavaliers team to a really good record early in the season. Now, obviously, they fell apart towards the end of the year, but that's a completely different story. Then we go to another guy who had a coming out party last year. Jarrett Allen, for the longest time, or longest part of his career, has always been a one-dimensional guy. He's been defense, he's been rebounding. Never had that offensive side to him, but last year with 32 minutes a game, 16 points and 11 rebounds, 4 of which are offensive and 7 defensive. He had about 2 assists per game and basically a little over 1 block per game. Now, if we look at it from his statistics on, if we look at, why would I look up Jarrett Allen and it swapped to a hockey player? If we look at his statistics the year before that, he was able to make an all-star team last year with Cleveland. But if we look at his statistics from every team or every year before last year in Cleveland, he really hasn't had that much offensive production. Before that, his highest was 12 points per game, but even then, he averaged typically around 11 points per game every season. So Jarrett Allen really took a massive leap offensively, and while he hasn't had or developed any type of three-point shot, I think it's still fair to say that he's going to become a better center year after year. I don't think he can become no top 3 center in the NBA, but I could very easily see him being a top 5 center in the NBA. I'm talking 4 to 5 spot for that. And both of those guys are before we even get into Rookie of the Year contender Evan Mobley, a guy who came in as a rookie. He dominated 14 points per game, or no, 15 points per game, 6 rebounds, or no, 8 total rebounds, 6 defensive, 2 offensive, 2.5 assists, about 1.7 blocks per game, almost 2 blocks per game, and almost a steal a game. This guy is a stretch big. He can shoot the 3 ball. He can do pretty much anything you would want a big man to do, and especially coming out as a rookie, the third overall pick. A lot of people thought maybe he was drafted just a little bit too high. I think he has a very, very good play style. Obviously, 25% from three, he could be a little bit better or a lot better with that stretch or that part of his game, but I think he has a lot of potential to grow. I think if he works on that, all of his game around that is going to improve. He already has pretty much everything you could ask for established, and man, he was amazing last year, and the Cavs essentially put around them a perfectly built team. Isaac Okoro, I'm not a big fan of him as a superstar or a starter, but when he's starting, he's okay. He's decent. That's all the Cavs needed. Colin Sexton really has lost his place on this Cavaliers roster. He's not the starter he used to be. He's not the number one option he was for a year there his rookie season, but the Cavs are good now. If Colin Sexton doesn't get traded to Dallas, he has a very, very good opportunity to become a very good sixth man, or at least a guy that they can plug in at that shooting guard position for a spark plug, a guy that can provide you with some efficient and good offensive play, but he's not going to be a guy you'll rely on consistently. Maybe like a J.R. Smith type player, a guy that can come out there, he can get you 15 points a night, and that's really all he's going to be able to do, but you pay him because you know he can consistently do that. On top of that, they still have Caris LeVert. I think a lot of people forget that they have Caris LeVert. He's a guy that struggled with injuries over the last few years of his career, and in my opinion, he is only going to continue to get better. He is 28 right now. He has struggled with injuries. Last year, he only ended up playing 19 total games for the Cavs after the trade. He played 39 in Indiana, but he did still struggle with injuries. And with that time, or in that time with Cleveland, he averaged about 14 points per game. That's what Caris LeVert can do. He can play defense and he can score similar to Colin Sexton, but with a little bit better of defensive efficiency. Overall, I'm a big fan of Caris LeVert. Obviously, his production dropped down from when he was in Indiana and Brooklyn. That's just because he's not the main scorer on this roster, but I still think he has a very, very good spot off the bench, or maybe even starting at that shooting guard position if you're the Cavs and you want to make a deep playoff run. Then we go to their more depth guys. They've got some guys on here that I really like as a backup piece. Raul Neto is an okay backup point guard, but he is not the guy I want to talk about. Ricky Rubio. Do any of you guys remember how well Ricky Rubio was playing? Can I see 2012 to 2002? He was drafted way back in 2012. That feels crazy. Before he was traded from Cleveland, Ricky Rubio was averaging 13 points per game and about 7 assists a game off the bench. He was getting 28 minutes a night. I believe he did start. I can actually see he started about 8 games of his 34 before he tore his ACL and wasn't able to play the rest of the season. Ricky Rubio was what put this team over the top last year. He was an X factor early in the season. Unfortunately, he got injured. The Cavs traded him, and they kind of slowly started to pile down. But this guy, if he can get back to that level, the Cavaliers have a very, very good chance of being a serious contender this year. All 3 of their core pieces are going to get better. They've still got guys that I haven't even mentioned in Lauri Markkanen, who has been a starter for some of his time in Cleveland. He's come off the bench as well, and he still has a lot of room to grow. How old is Lauri Markkanen? Can we see here? Lauri Markkanen is only 25. He's a good 3-and-D guy. He can stretch the floor, as I mentioned. He has so much more room to grow. The Cavaliers have a lot of players. They still have Kevin Love, who I thought was going to get traded, honestly, this offseason, but they still have him. They have Brandon Goodwin, who's an okay backup guy. Ed Davis is a reliable center. Moses Brown is a reliable center. He's a young guy. He can still improve. Isaiah Mobley, I don't know, is that Evan Mobley's brother? Is Isaiah Mobley related to Evan Mobley? I would imagine they both went to USC. Yes, he is related, man. Evan Mobley ain't even it's just his second year, and he's already pulling the Giannis strings to get his brother's jobs. Cedi Osman, I haven't even mentioned. And then you've got their rookies coming in. Khalifa Diop, Isaiah Mobley would be one of those rookies, and Ochai Agbaji. This team looks to be a very, very good team overall. I think they're going to be a great team this year. I think they have a very, very high chance to make a playoff run, and I would be shocked, honestly, more so if they didn't make that playoff run. I think they have so much potential, all the potential in the world. Very disappointed if they don't make a playoff run. I think they should have made it last year. Obviously, they seemed like they were a lock-in last year. You know, they had a couple injuries that really kind of messed up their groove, if you want to say. Colin Sexton got hurt. Ricky Rubio got hurt. Kevin Love, I believe, missed a few games here and there. They had to struggle, or they had struggles with injuries similar to how every other team does. But this year, they're all coming back healthy. They're having, new players come back in. Guys come back, such as Ricky Rubio. They brought in Rajon Rondo. They've got veterans. They've got young players. They've got energy. They've got star power. The Cavs are built to win, and in my opinion, this season they should not be a team to joke around with. They have a very, very good chance to make a deep playoff run and maybe even get into the finals. I think they're better than the Raptors right now, and they're better than the Magic as far as their team being built. The Raptors might make a little bit more noise this year just because of Scotty Barnes and how good I think he can become taking a second-year leap, assuming he does that. But I think the Cavs have a really, really well-built roster. I do not be shocked if they make the 6th or higher seed and they miss the play-in tournament completely this year. They could be good enough to make that jump. How do you guys feel about the Cavs? Do you think they're as good as I say they are? They definitely have an opportunity to make a deep playoff run. In my opinion, comment down below how you feel about this team. If you're a Cavs fan, I'd love to hear from your perspective what you think this roster can do next year. If you enjoy my content, hit the like button and subscribe. Turn on post notifications so you never miss a video. Thank you all for watching this one. I'll see you next time. Peace.